All right, guys. I have been promising you a fabulous show here or event, and we have Mr. David Suro with us. I've sat in on a couple of his presentations before and talking about an amazing speaker for the tequila world. He brings to light many aspects in the tequila industry. He knows where it started. He knows how to make it. He knows where to go to get the agaves. You are going to enjoy this event. David Suro, I thank you very much for being here today at this event. I couldn't be any more excited than I am right now. So the floor is yours, sir.
Well, it's mutual. I always looking forward to chat with people that we share the same love and respect for the agave spirits culture. So having these opportunities is just a privilege, and I appreciate that you allow me to chat tonight with you and all our friends in this beautiful network and beautiful family of agave spirits in cyberspace. Yeah.
Let me see if I can. And and just on another small note, I mean that this week we hit about 21,000 people in the group. So
Wow.
hopefully most of those people are here today
Tell me
watching
these
us.
things. You should tell me these things after we finish, so I don't get nervous. Yeah. Now I'm nervous and intimidated. Yeah.
No, they're amazing people. I mean, talk about true enthusiasts. I love seeing the pictures and stuff like that. We see quite a bit of your tequilas popping up in there and stuff like that. So, yes,
Well, let,
it'll be
let's let's
awesome.
let's ask them to sip tequila so I make some sense when I speak.
Absolutely. So the one thing that really excited me when I came and visited you, when you came to Kansas City and set up to do a little tasting of a round of spirits that not only that you represent, but that you also participate in making and designing yourself, and where the spirit came from, how it's evolved over the years, and um, where we're at today, along with some of the CRT regulation and so forth. Can you kind of go over that for these people, because it is truly an amazing story?
Yeah. Bob, everything has to do with realize after I migrate to the United States how much I miss my culture, my hometown, and I have the opportunity, and I was very fortunate to be able to open a little Mexican restaurant in downtown Philadelphia back in 1986. And the restaurant became a good place for gathering of people. Remember, this is 1980s. Tequila. We were not even dreamed that one day will drag this much attention worldwide. Our category was in the opposite side of where we are right now. It was a category that was didn't show any. It doesn't have any respect from most of the people who are exposed to agave spirits, especially tequila. And so the restaurant became this forum where we start to get gathering and people to start to deep tequilas that I have to introduce into United States illegally and into the Pennsylvania liquor control regulations, even more illegal. But I was not selling; we were tasting. And one common answer that or comment that I get from a lot of the people who participates in these tertulias, these gatherings, it was like, oh, this doesn't taste like tequila. And it was funny because, they were tasting for the first time, and the spirit was done um, with from producers. They became my mentors, and producers, they were totally focused in real traditional, not the traditional that we hear today, the traditional methods of production, and tequilas that were made with tremendous amount of pride and family knowledge, and that was like, people start to taste these tequilas and they believe how different it was from the tequila they were exposed. So soon I realized that these forums and these conversations, they have to expand above and beyond the restaurant. And one of the ideas that came after conversations that I had with some of the academics, that they became my mentors. It was to create a brand which will be kind of like the tool that I can use outside of the restaurant to travel and to meet people outside of the restaurant and talk about real factors and real stories, and start to help people to approach to tequila from a different perspective, from a historical, cultural, objective perspective information. So that was where the idea of create the Seimbra Spirits project, the Seimbra Azul, which was the first expression that we launched back in 2005. And, with Seimbra Azul, I have the opportunity to start to travel, all over the country and pretty much all over the world. And sharing some stories that I learned by visiting producers, by talking with professors, with academics, with people on the Regulatory Council of Tequila, with people on big tequila companies, small tequila companies, and then I follow the path of tequila, and take me to the agave spirits. So it all became, there's a necessity to continue to share the real stories about tequila and agave spirits. And it's been an incredible journey this last 20 years, on the project of Seimbra Spirits. Now we have the opportunity to work with other producers other than Seimbra producers. I'm able to, which is a huge commitment and a huge responsibility to represent the Rosales family and Cascaguin. That's something that I take very serious. To represent the Pedro Jimenez from Mesonte, which is such an incredible project. The Paranubes, Pajarote, Mónica Leiva, Don Mateo La Sierra, the Vieira family. They are projects that we have a lot in common, which is, being very serious about what we represent and what we do. So yeah, it's been 20 years of see how the perception of agave spirits and even other spirits from Mexico, like Jose Luis Carrera Paranubes, which is another spirit from Oaxaca, a rum from Oaxaca that we represent, and how it's evolving and how people start to truly, being responding to the cultural elements and historical elements and richness on flavors, aromas that these spirits provide to us. It's been wonderful to see that evolution in 20 years, which is a very short period of time, if you think of it.
Yeah, the spirit has really grown I would even say over the last 5 years, there's just been an explosion of people wanting to know more, seeking out these uh, brands that are true to the tequila spirit that was made, as you were hinting towards, 20 and 30 years ago, the rich agaves that been planted for 10 and 15 years. I mean, not that you see much of that anymore, but I mean, they're trying to be as true to the heritage as possible.
Hmm.
And it shows in, I mean, a lot of the spirits that you talked about from the couple of distilleries, Nam 1123 and 1414. I
Hmm.
mean, they really do try to stay true to the path of how it was made in that time period, which is awesome.
Yeah, and also we have to see now we are kind of in the opposite situation where people didn't pay attention, and now it's like one of the fastest growing categories in the world of alcohol beverages worldwide.
Yeah.
Uh, that also became a challenge for the categories. I mean, this fast and in many ways out of control growth in the categories, it brings some serious challenges in terms of the sustainable future for the agave category. I mean, we really having to be very careful in where we want to take this category, and how much we can grow the category. I mean, we see a lot of projects who are the only goal is to continue to mass produce in a category that it doesn't work quite like other categories produced from raw materials. They are, very accessible. I mean, you can produce a lot of these spirits from raw material. They can basically be grown all over the
Mhm.
world with a very short crafts. The duration of the crafts are very short. Here, I mean, you have an exceptional raw material that is it demands time, and time and spreadsheets, they don't get along very well. I mean, when you have these big corporations that are just looking to mass produce and grow, that not necessarily is also paying attention to what is the right strategics for that growth. So, and I always say the solution is not in the decisions made by the big conglomerates, the big tequila producers. The decisions, they pretty much have to come from the consumer. And if we have a consumers, they are more aware and more educated and more sensibilized to what is the impact. I think we have a better chances to prolong the existence of these beautiful spirits. They've been there for millennia.
And I can concur to that because tonight I'm drinking the Anejo from 1123. I mean, it's so smooth. I know you don't like word smooth, so I'll refrain from using that word. Uh,
No,
but,
I'm
but
living.
it is so silky and clean and light on the tongue that you don't get all that pepper and everything to it. And I find that true to a lot of your spirits. It's just a very nice, clean, mellow flavor, agave forward. That I mean, to me, it's truly one of the more enjoyable tequilas that I've have on my shelf. And as you saw earlier, there's quite a bit of it there, and there's even more on the shelf. I just didn't have more room on the little display I put together for you. So
Now,
yes.
what
So,
I think it's very important to when we approach to agave spirits, um, to some of the spirits on the world in other categories where barrels are a huge part of the profile that we're looking for. The balance of or the dominance of a age process. In cognacs, armagnacs, rums, bourbons,
mhm.
whiskey. In tequila, I always been very open about saying that I prefer blancos, non-aged tequilas, because I think when we are drinking an agave spirit, what we're focusing to taste the uniqueness and the richness of agave. And if we're going to introduce these beautiful and beautiful spirits into a barrel that's being saturated with other beautiful spirits, I feel, this is very personal, I feel that we are distracting the attention from what a tequila or mezcal or agave spirit is all about, which is the beautiful relationship between agave and its terroirs. The agave and the uh, knowledge of the master distiller or the maestro mezcalero. So, I do prefer the purest expressions of agave spirits, non-disturbed, which are, the tequilas, they are also more challenging from a production point of view. You're not going to have any makeup on that expression of blanco tequila. I mean, it's going to be the naked expression of everything, of terroir, and the knowledge and the how the wisdom of the producer and his team and his equipment. So I prefer to go with the blancos, non-aged tequilas and agaves. But if we're going to taste reposados or añejos or extra añejos, one of the things that we do, and again, this is very personal, is not to use barrels that have been previously used in other spirits. All the Seimbra Spirits expressions are aged on barrels. They came from not far away from where you are, the Ozarks region. And I always say that I like to taste the 75 years of the terroir from the Ozarks and the terroir from the highlands or the lowlands of the valles of Jalisco, and that's it. And I love whiskeys and I love bourbons and I love a good single malt, a good cognac, a good armagnac. They're unbelievable, but in their own.
Yeah.
So one of the best compliments that I always take, something that I really appreciate when people talk about our age expressions, is what you just say. You tasting this añejo from Cascahuín, or I don't know if it's Cascahuín or Seimbra, and the agave still speaks very loud to you.
Yes.
That speaks very well about the foundation on that expression of aged tequila. So when a tequila is, you maintain the integrity of the agave, of the raw material, after you've been exposed that juice for age process. It speaks well about what was there before it goes to the barrel.
And I had the great pleasure of visiting Cascahuín just under a year ago, and tour the facility. It is an amazing facility. You talk about doing pretty much everything old school.
Mhm.
It, the Tahona, the way they separate the agave juice and the syrup from the agave, and the letting it ferment and everything. It's just it's a crazy. But then you kind of walk out of the backside of the building and you see your little setup. You got your own little um, pit there, and they do it at a different process than what they do it inside the building for the regular Cascouine. He grabs out this what looks like a 4x4 that somebody whittled down, somebody can hold, and they crush everything by hand.
Mhm. Yep, it's the way it used to be, and the. Let me just tell you something. I walked into that distillery for the first time in the late 1970s, and since then I've been there literally 100 times, hundreds of times. But my levels of adrenaline and excitement, they start to increase rapidly right after I drive the typical nightmare traffic from La Venta, which is about, still about 15 kilometers away from Arenal, but my emotions and my heartbeat increase, knowing that I'm going to Cascawin. It's a very special place. It's a very special place that it still generates such a beautiful, positive emotions. And as I approach, a few other distilleries, in that region, for me to visit Fortaleza also is very special sensations, and to see a process and the level of integrity in these two distilleries, that they're not compromising, their pride and their approach to tequila. Or if you go to the highlands and you approach to La Alteña, one of my first distilleries that I ever visit, or Siete Leguas, Carlos Camarena and his father, Don Felipe, and his brother Felipe, and Fernando Gonzalez, and the Tres Magueyes, where Don Julio used to make his tequila. I mean, those places are very, very special, because I have the honor and the pleasure to visit them before this, boom.
Mm-hmm.
Almost all of them, they still maintain that level of integrity and transparency. El Ranchito and the Vivancos, they've been increasing their production and their brands. They are now making so many brands, and they're doing so well. I'm very happy to see how they expand into, supply of good juice to many, many projects. So for me, it's still very special time when I approach into the deal, and when I approach, and I know that I'm going to meet one of these, members of this very small family anymore of producers that is still are so loyal to their principles. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the part on Cascawin, in the area where we produce Ancestral, I still can believe of the generosity and the trust that was given to us by Salvador Rosales Senior and Chava, and they allow us to do something that today is easy to talk about Ancestral, and there's a lot of people who are very engaged with this expression of tequila. But when I introduced this project, when I present this project, this idea to them, they were like, what? But what are you wanna do? You are drunk. You're but and I present this idea to other producers, and they thought it was something crazy. But the Rosales, they were, I mean, the level of trust and the level of openness towards Siembra Spirits, it was amazing. They allow us to do something that it was unthinkable, and also their openness to agree to travel to Michoacan and to meet with the Vieira family, with Don Emilio Sr. and Emilio Vieira from Mezcal Don Mateo. And, to go there and to pretty much observe and witness what I was looking for. And, to see the Rosales in the Vinata in Michoacan, to see their face expressions, and then to start to see them interacting with mezcaleros. I say at that moment, even if it doesn't go through, but to see a tequileros and mezcaleros in Avinata is mission accomplished. Everything from now on is el pilon, is the extra. But and then the Vieiras travel to Jalisco and help us to put together that little space, that little magical space in Cascahuín that is allocated for Seimbra Valles.
Yeah, it is a very neat little area that you have there, and
yeah,
I'm so glad that they actually took us back there, and I knew it was made there, but it just, you go there and you're just overwhelmed by, these amazing big ovens that are traditional, the big Tahona stone, and they go around and they're showing you the different stainless steel pots that they got filled up with the yeast and the juice from when they're washing the shredded, and what they're getting from the Tahona. They separate it, and then they continue to explain that during the process, when they're making all the different expressions, they'll take 30% of this and 70% of this, and then they'll use this yeast. And that was probably one of my more educational tours during that visit to Mexico. It really helped explain a lot of how they're taking different parts of the washing and smashing and putting it together to come up with all these amazing expressions that come out of that facility. and I was just blown away.
They make a very difficult decisions, and because there was few brands, very few produced there when we start to produce, and there was always in every single distillery that you visit nowadays, for obvious reasons, there is a push to make more, and now everybody wants their own tequila brand. Everybody has different reasons why they qualify for to make their own brand. From celebrities to wealthy people that just want to have their own tequila, and so the pressure on every size of distillery, from very small ones to very big capacity production, it's been tremendous in the last couple of years, and so the Rosales, I think they make one of the most amazing decisions. They take the decisions to, if they're going to take some brands, were brands that they're never gonna be able to compromise their commitment to production ethics on their production. So they still not been any alterations in the distillery in order to gain more efficiency. They still, whatever juice is coming out of the distillery is carefully and ethically done, and that's not an average on these years, on these times, on the tequila industry. Again, we put in too much pressure on the category, and there is so much demand, and it's so many people they is in the category that I don't think they should be there, because
Mhm.
their approach is strictly from an economical positions. The approach is not in, to continue to grow the awareness and to celebrate the producers. I've been dedicated all this time that I work with Cascawin, and because what they do, and to celebrate their incredible position on the category of tequila. They instead of grow in methods or develop methods of efficiency, what they opened the door to a project like Ancestral, which is the complete opposite direction. You know,
Yes.
so that is kind of like in today's tequila or agave spirits terms, it makes no sense to explore and to incorporate into a distillery a method of production that is not about quantity. It's about the challenges of do quantity only, and the challenges of do. I mean, if you for those who are there and you've been there, it's
Hmm.
extremely simple, and that complexity of the simple methods of agave spirits is where the magic is. I mean, if you go to a vinata, if you go to a taberna, a fabrica of agave spirits where producers they make 300 liters per year, they're extremely simple and basic.
Right.
Can come up with these complex flavor profiles. And then in the other side, you go to these industrial mega distilleries that they produce something that can be vodka or can be whatever, but not agave spirit. So these very simple, small facilities are capable to produce giant flavor profiles and endless flavor profiles. Uh, in my opinion, almost impossible to describe, to get the right descriptors for the complexity of these spirits. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean, compared to, and I preach, and I'm not afraid to admit to anybody that 1123 is my most favorite distillery. I love everything that comes out of it. Um, I got into the brand new La Grimace tonight that just came out of their new the estate. Loved it, and now I'm into yours. I mean, there's so much to it. To me, yours is like it's almost like a dessert. I mean, there's just so much to it, and but it's silky and very enjoyable. And almost every time you try it or open up the bottle, you're getting different notes, and it's just like a creme brulee. It's just an amazing experience every single time.
Wonderful. It should be different every time because, we when you have methods of production, they are all basic and open and transparent. And you bring agaves, they grow in different areas of the Valles region, and they are harvested in different times of the year. And it should be different, it's like grapes. I mean,
Hmm.
vintage is different. I think in agaves we have instead of be 1 year vintage, you have 5, 6 years vintages. And so what happened in that period of time is quite remarkable. I mean, not every winter is different. If you want to talk about winters, not every summer is the same. In a period of time where the agaves are in contact with the soil, with exposed to the climate. So therefore, it should taste different, and that's one of the things that I always emphasize, that our batch is never going to taste the same. If they do the same, I will be concerned and bored. You obviously taste the fingerprint, the DNA, where they're coming from, because they came from a specific distillery, and that generates, a profiles. But then, if we allow the agave to express everything that potentially can express, it's going to tell us different stories every batch. It is going to be, some agaves, they have higher sugar content. Some agaves, they grow in more arid, more, volcanic soil. Some agaves, they grow in areas, they are slopes, they are exposed to sunlight less hours than other areas. All those elements, they translate into flavor profiles. So, yeah.
So when you came here, the thing that I thought it was interesting I know that you mentioned in the beginning of your presentation that you came from Mexico, and you obviously tried some tequila while you were down there, and you enjoyed it. But then when you came to America and you opened up your restaurant in Philadelphia, it was all shit tequila. And you said, I can't serve this in my restaurant. I have to be able to bring not only the food that I'm used to, but I need to be able to bring the tequila. And that's where I kind of gathered from your presentation of how you ended up becoming a producer as well, or
I'm not a producer.
a brand owner.
Then we will be in trouble. I mean, to be a producer of tequila,
Yes.
there's something that is I don't take it light. I mean, to the producers, and the people that is hands-on in production of ethical tequilas. I mean, they are lifelong training and encouraged knowledge, and I'm a bridge between great producers and great consumers. And over that bridge, we have signs hanging all the time of stories and what this bridge has been all about it. And yeah, I mean, there was Pennsylvania is one of the few states left. There is a state control, so the agave selection was very precarious. I mean, it was almost. I mean, I believe when we opened, we have only 5 tequilas available in Pennsylvania, and that was. As I think I mentioned, I repeat this all the time. But I don't drink tequila, during those years. I became a Scotch drinker. They were not drinkable, and they were all mixed tequilas. They were not 100%. It was not such a thing as 100% agave tequilas in Pennsylvania. One of the first things that we start to promote and to talk about agave spirits, I remember some of the most intimidated seminars that I did in the very beginning. One, because I'm still struggle with English. I think on Spanish. I think Spanish, and I try to spell English. And I feel bad. If Shakespeare were alive, he probably will deport me from the English-speaking countries. But the one of the first seminars was through the PLCB employees. You know, we have very, very, very knowledgeable people who work on the PLCB, but they were focused on wine. And some of the very first seminars in Pennsylvania in the PLCB, it was to managers from all different areas of the state. I remember we used to present here in Philadelphia, in Harrisburg, and in Pittsburgh. And we start to begging to the state to introduce better tequila selection. We were promising that they were going to be a successful brands in their inventories. And we start to see, you know, when Tesoro de Don Felipe, Chinaco, the pioneer tequilas on the 100% category, when they start to become available on the States, we were able to bring them to the PLCB. We were lobbying, you know, on the PLCB in order to make them accessible to license in Pennsylvania. And, you know, and then, you know, everything changed. You know, the availability and the accessibility to get 100% tequilas, good tequilas, it became so much fun. You know, it was kind of like a dream come true. And look what is now. I mean, even in the PLCB, we have hundreds of brands available, you know. So, I mean, you go to other states where it's better selections than anywhere in Mexico. You know, I always say that we have bars in the United States. I don't know, fortunately or unfortunately, but we have bars here that they have way better selection than tequilas or mezcales than most of the bars in Mexico, especially Guadalajara. You know.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that. So, out of all places, I have a friend up in Milwaukee, out of all places, that has an amazing tequila collection in his bar. I mean, that just amazes me. I mean, Milwaukee? That's not where I would think to go for a phenomenal tequila. It would probably be the last place I would honestly think about going for an amazing. I want to go for a beer. I'm in.
I heard the same feeling because I travel pretty much every state in the country, and sometimes I came across you know, some collections they are curated and they are, you know, and it's not just. I mean, there's some places where they just have, you know, we got the world record for tequila, and half of or 3/4 of that record is something that I will not recommend to my worst enemy. But you go to places where they curate, you know, their selection of agave spirits like you don't see anywhere in Mexico, you know. So, and I think this is one of the going back to the very first minutes of our chat. I think it's this community of tequila agave spirits friends and drinkers is very passionate and is getting educated more and more, and more awareness, more education that we have in our category, you know, force us. I'm gonna get my hat of restaurateur right now. To have a better selection, to have better training on our staff. You know, if you have a good selection of agave spirits, looking as a restaurant owner or bar manager, I mean, you have thousands and thousands of dollars of inventory that it's not a good business is to leave it sit in your shelves.
Yeah,
you know, that inventory has to be in order to help the economy of your bar or your restaurant. And how you're going to be able to sell more and better by educating your staff. And that is incentivized by the number of customers now that they walk into restaurants and bars and they raise their hand and they ask for knowledge and service. And accessibility to good juice. I
Mhm.
mean, look at what happened with almost across the entire country with the celebrity brands. The celebrity brands, I mean, they still sell the number one sales brands in the country, but the number of people who are raising questions and are they don't trust those brands increase drastically, you know. So it's a good balance of now we have in the category where people, and thanks to a lot of educators like you, we have more a better category, more healthy category in United States, which is the number one market in the world by far.
Yeah.
Mexico is the second one, but it's far away from us numbers wise.
I
So
remember when I went to Fortaleza, which I mean they make very small amount of tequila or bottled tequila every day. I want to say it was like 1,500 bottles is the absolute max that they can do per day. I mean, they got that little machine over there in the corner that they got to hand load the 6 bottles in, push the button, fill them up, and then they got to hand unload them. They put them on the table and so forth. So
even before,
1,500 bottles.
even before you get into the bottling part of Fortaleza, you
Yeah.
know, their distills are original distills from back when Guillermo's grandparents were the great grandparents were distilling there. And
Yeah.
Guillermo is not about this bullshit growing out of non, business. Guillermo, you can see his pride when he talks about his roots, when he talks about his heritage. And
Mhm.
you can tell that he's an individual that is not going to give up, that level of pride. And he's been showing that. And he tastes
Yes.
like that.
So where I was going to go is out of, you know, the 1,500 bottles that they can do per day, 90% of everything goes to America.
Yeah.
5% stays in Mexico, and then the other 5% goes to the rest of the world. So if we're not spoiled up here, I don't know who is. It,
But the same thing for us. Most of the production of Seimbra Spirits comes to United States. A very little percentage goes to Europe. But in our case, one of the main reasons was because the name of our brand, Seimbra Azul, was stole by somebody, and we were not able to sell in Mexico. And that was a nightmare that it was for years, and finally was solved legally. And we started to introduce our portfolio in Mexico, and I really want to have presence in Mexico. Um, I think it's a better challenge for us, Mexico, than United States, because the Mexican market is very difficult to penetrate. The layers of marketing uh, preconceptions is so thick that to penetrate that market, you really have to work. And that's what a great challenge that I have. Every time that I've been introducing a batch in Mexico, I know that it's a lot more difficult to do my job there than here. And that's great. Look at what is the number, the, the top 10 tequilas sold in Mexico. That's, I'm not going to mention brands, but the majority, they not brands that,
yes.
in my opinion, represent what tequila is all about. It.
One of the biggest producers right there in tequila itself. I mean, yeah, and it's because they've had so much of a marketing campaign there, and
It's a different model,
yes,
and and
yes,
and, and most of these companies, they not even run by the original families. They are now conglomerates, and they are part of portfolios that they are global. If, if we start to populate Mars or the moon, they're going to be the first ones to arrive there. The level, the capacity to penetrate the markets is incredible because their resources are incredible. I mean, when you have portfolios that they have strong rum expressions, vodkas, whiskeys, and they subsidize their tequila category in their portfolio. That was something very interesting during this. Looks like it's over this last crisis of agave on prices. It was interesting to see how the prices on agave reached levels that we never thought that we were going to get. I mean, we went to the point it was almost $2 per kilo of agave. And the dominant brands in the market, instead of increase the prices, they were decreasing the prices of the product. You can tell there was an incredible and aggressive and evil marketing strategics, where they put the competition in, try to get competition, eliminate competition. And it was just laughable to see how bottles of tequila were selling in the United States market below the cost of the raw material. But that's thanks to, portfolios they subsidized by huge corporations that they were, able to funnel money into category who was almost impossible to produce. For us to produce a bottle of Ancestral that it takes up to 15 kilograms of agave to make 1 liter, just add the numbers. It is, or the, somewhere there was this people who was complaining about the price of Seimbra Valles High Proof, which is fascinating. And I don't like to respond. I don't like to get into those, chats, and because it's endless. But if you see the price of Seimbra Valles High Proof, and if the batch that is in the United States right now, it was still part of the batches that we produce back before the agave prices started to go down. Yeah. And one thing that you have to take into consideration in this particular batch, and this is just an example. It's not a complaint, but it's a kind of like explanation. Right. This particular batch, well, first of all, is a high proof, so there is a price impact. And another thing that people, if you read the technical data on that label, and if you read a little bit about what you're drinking, that is an expression that it goes into a stabilization process for a period of time. It's like aging in glass. And one of the reasons that we do that process in Seimbra Valles Ancestral is to allow by micro-oxygenation process, we allow the most volatile alcohols to evaporate and therefore make the final product more approachable. Mm-hmm. So you also losing a lot of juice by the 6 to up to a year months that we submit this expression of tequila into stabilization. One other factor that also not many people take in consideration is the Mexican peso is being extremely strong compared to the dollar. We lost about 20% of the value of the peso, and we pay pesos. So the cost just in the transfer money from the U.S. to the supply chain in Mexico, it costs you 20% more. And obviously, a brand like us, it has not subsidized from anybody. I mean,
Right.
subsidized from my own bank. So it's very interesting to see the market. But I like to see people who understand, the prices and what is involved and the cost of a quality product. And they come up and respond for me. But I don't hear that many complaints. A large segment of the market that they complain for bottles that they are sold for over $1,000, and the only thing is because they are or either a beautiful bottle or they are endorsed by a famous person. Come on, it's
Yes.
just...
What do we got here? All right. So we have somebody here on Facebook that's asking a question. The artisanal is mezcal method right to the end?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question.
Except for the agave.
Oh yeah. The method of ancestral. Yeah, it is the original. Remember, tequila still culturally speaking, a form of it's a mezcal.
Yes.
But if it's one of the big difference between tequila and mezcal is the traditional methods of production for one and the other. But the methods of production that we use in the Seimbra Valles Ancestral, they are, just like most of the mezcaleros use, underground roasting, hand maceration, wood natural spontaneous fermentation, and distillation is done in Filipino distill. And we also submit this expression of tequila to the stabilization process in glass demijohns. So I take zero credit, of these methods of stabilization. Those methods of stabilization, are what I learned from the maestros mezcaleros. There is most of the mezcaleros in Oaxaca and Guerrero and Michoacán and Durango, they have their they rest their mezcales in glass. Oh, somebody knows my son. David Suro is and he's he's not like me. He's a real gentleman. He's a person that is extremely focused on hospitality. And I think he performs hospitality at the highest levels in the industry. I'm super proud and lucky to have a son and a partner like Junior. Yeah, he is. Yeah, I mean, what I can say about my son, but the people who knows David can second me on that one. His tenderness and his gentle way to treat people is pretty amazing.
Yes, and there seems to be a few comments rolling in about that. So yes, everybody seems to be in agreement with you on that one.
Oh, and a lot of people disagree on the other ones. I don't read in any comments, so I don't know. Good. Let's talk about the disagreement. That's more fun.
Yes. So, what can we expect coming in 2024? Any big plans?
Yeah, and it's a secret that everybody knows.
Yes.
And we've been after 35 years of a very beautiful relationship with the Camarenas, with Carlos Camarena. I'm I don't know. It's a shame this is a cyber thing, but I will ask you to pinch me, pinch my hand, that for me to say that we are about to launch an expression of Seimbra Alteño, that is produced at La Alteña, where we have Carlos and his sisters involved in make this happen. So I still can believe that they agree to produce a special, very special batch for Seimbra, for the Seimbra project, that is going to have their nom in the label. That is talking about responsibility for us to carry the nom is more than a marketing thing for me.
Yes.
To carrying a nom is very deep into my heart, and especially when you carry a nom that it has so much weight and presence in the tequila category. I mean, this is the foundation on the tequila. Without families like the Camarenas, we pretty much will be like a sheep in the ocean without, how you say, brújula, without compass.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have still these ports or these anchors of few families. And the Camarena, La Alteña, and Carlos Camarena is one of those, iconic, in many different meanings of iconic figures. Yes. That help us to keep focus on a category that is being loaded with challenges. So for us it took me 35 years to feel, to have the guts to ask him, if I can produce at La Alteña. And the answer was just so incredible, because he said, it was about time, David. You are. And I think, the most incredible moments in my involvement on the tequila category, and I'm gonna say this because I never say this before, but it was during production, like 4 months ago. We were gathering at the Stills in La Alteña. For those who've been there, it's a very special place in La Alteña, a very special place in the Highlands, and a very special place in the Mexican culture of agave spirits. And we were there, and they were the master distillers there, and they still look at me and say, what do you tell them? Why they never produce for anybody else? It's a very specific prejudice. I don't know. Ask him, and this is definitely one of the highlights of my participation on this category. He said, if I ever gonna produce for somebody, it was only 2 people. And one of them is unfortunately passed away already, which was Tomás Estes, our brother, Tomás Estes, that I miss him immensely every day. And the other person, he said, was David. You cannot get to a better compliment, coming from somebody that you always look up as your mentor, and that if you know Carlos, is a man who always mean what he says, and his level of pride, of integrity is unquestionable, and for him to make a comment like that about us as a project, it means so much, so we are about to launch that expression. There was some hiccups there on the paperwork. The Mexican government hold us for some paperwork, bureaucratic things, but they're being solved, and as we're speaking, and it's been going through a TTV approval. Should be ready probably tomorrow. We should have the approval. We print labels, and it should be, coming up in this direction within the next few weeks, hopefully. It's going to be, we're launching the two expressions of one Blanco, one Reposado. And I can tell you how excited and how, proud I am about launching this expression, the Seimbra Alteño.
So you said a special project. Is this going to be an ongoing project?
Yeah, it's ongoing. It's a special because it's very special to produce in such a special place. No, we're there for until they kick us out. If they kick us out, no. I mean, you're kidding me? This is something that I wait 35 years, for this to happen. And it's gonna be as long as we're allowed to be there. Yeah.
Can we expect an XA from Seimbra Azul?
Probably not anytime soon. And this happened all about across our portfolio. The shortage of agave and the demand for our portfolio, it makes us very limited on the age program. The age program was reduced, and we don't have much in aging. It will come. Something will come out. I don't know if it's going to be on Seimbra Azul or Seimbra Valles or Seimbra Alteño. Seimbra Metal, right now we are working with the Perez family, and we have some inventory of Seimbra Metal from the Perez, the Jorge Perez family and son. As your distributor in your local stores or your local stores, because there is some available, some Seimbra Metal. And Seimbra Alteño is going to be the expression. Not Alteña, Alteño. That's going to be the new expression. I don't have a bottle with me because it's still all the labels they're not print. But it's going to be available very shortly.
And looks like that's pretty much wrapping everybody's questions up. Everybody's in praise and excited about, the new NALM, obviously, and of course, the relationship with Cascaween and the product you got coming out of there. I mean,
very solid, very solid relationship. We are about to release the special barrel from Cascaween that we put together with Mission 1530. That's on its way to the States right now. That's the huge percentage of that program with Cascaween and Fortaleza is going to be allocated to the Tequila Interchange Project. We want to reactivate the organization, and that's going to be, the Fortaleza expression. It was sold out almost instantly. So the Cascaween expression with Mission 1530 is going to be available very soon. And then it's going to be the Ocho expression barrel from the same project. And at the end, it's going to be the Seimbra Valles High Proof Extra Añejo that is going to be released. And all these 4 releases, they were thanks to the generosity of the producers. Guillermo, Carlos, and the Rosales, they were extremely generous and give us product almost at cost. The importers, they were also very involved in making available, at a low percentages for them. And also Jason Krasno, which is a friend from a long time here from Philadelphia. He bought the barrels from a PM Spirits, so it's a collaboration of great producers and the guys like Jason, which is he's very generous. And we're finally going to be able to activate such an important program as TIP is, to continue to have that voice that is desperately needed on the category, to raise our voices on areas that has to be questioned, the category. And somebody asked about the restaurant, the reopening. Well,
yes,
we are hoping. We're hoping the schedule is for May, towards the end of May. As soon as we have more, advances, we're going to be. We really want to do it in, May. So hopefully tequilas will be reopened in May. Where will the tequila Cascabel Mission be available to purchase? Okay, we are talking with distributors in California, in New Jersey, Illinois, and Texas. And they're small batches. It's only one 400-liter barrel that is in each release. So it will be allocated to few places on these markets, a few retailers. And we still try to figure out how we can be extremely democratic about the release. The last thing I want is to become, available just for friends. I don't want to go in that direction. I want to be probably a lottery or something. We're still working and see how this release is going to be done, to avoid, the secondary market where it goes,
we just saw that recently happen. With one of Cascaween's special.
I know.
Releases.
Yeah. I had to tell you that Cascaween, because it's a lot of speculation, and I can be, I'm the importer of Cascaween, and I will tell you and your friends and all our friends in this chat that it's also on its way to the United States. It's a very limited batch, but there is a blend of reposados from Cascaween, and it's the extremely important release for the family Rosales, because it celebrates the 70 years of Don Chava Rosales. And it's going to be one release. The price, probably by the time that is at the retail, is going to be around $210 per a very symbolic, special expression of the family Rosales in the market. So that should be available also in about 3 weeks in the market.
Awesome.
And it's going to be allocated to pretty much all the distributors that we work on nationwide, but it's going to be only one time. It's already sold out from our warehouse to distributors. Yeah,
I have been hitting up my distributor that carries your product here in Kansas City.
Yeah,
weekly, making sure that I know exactly when that hits.
It's not in the warehouse yet. I tell you right now is. Again, as I'm speaking, is in transit between the distillery, our warehouse in Mexico, to our warehouse in New Jersey, It doesn't hit our warehouse yet, but it's on its way. So
Yeah, as soon as I saw the news hit the social media, I immediately alerted that the owner of that distributor in
yeah,
Missouri, and I said, "You got to get this."
yeah.
So
And it's gonna be, it's beautiful, it's very special. It is very symbolic. It's an expression of tequila that is, it celebrates as such an important member of the Rosales family. It's 70 years, and they came up with a beautiful blend of reposados, and we're going to celebrate with the Rosales this exceptional expression. I really enjoy that expression. Um, it's, yeah, siete veces yes. It will be between. It depends. We don't have the last word with the retailers, but it will be between 210 to 220. I assume that's going to be the price. Some markets are more expensive than others. Yeah. The retail on the Cascawin mission, we are aiming to be about 150.
that's
I'm
really
gonna make,
reasonable.
it's very
Yeah,
reasonable. Yeah. And the reason is because, again, Guillermo Erickson from Fortaleza did almost at cost, the juice in that expression. The importer was very generous with their margins, and the retailer was generous with the margins. Same thing happened here. We want to make it accessible. Please, understand that if it's not available, it's because we don't want to make releases. They go to the secondary, marketeers. I saw already some people the other day to post a bottle of Mission 1530 Fortaleza for like $1,500, and that's horrible. I don't like. You don't know how infuriates me to see the second market, prices. If that people who abuse of those special expressions will donate to, a good cause, the money they make, it will be great. But yeah, secondary markets are a bad thing right now in the category. So Seimbra Valles, Cascawin, Mission 1530, 150. The siete veces 10, around 220. That's the honest price, and the official price, same from the importer. I'm the importer, and I take all that liability.
yes, yes.
And if you see in a retailer that goes above that, something is wrong, and that retailer is taking a larger margins that he should.
Yeah. And
And
we
if you,
see that out there.
yeah,
Luckily, here in the Kansas City market, we seem to have a lot of honest retailers that aren't price gouging. I mean, there's a few bucks here and there, but I mean, I'm so close to the Kansas Missouri line that I understand it's taxes also in the states
yeah,
that
yeah,
have
Pennsylvania is extremely expensive.
yeah,
Pennsylvania, is too expensive, and there's markets that are almost 40-50% higher. But that's across all the categories.
yeah.
But an average price in the U.S. are 150 for Cascawin Mission 1530, and 210 to 20 for the siete veces 10.
Thank you for taking care of Texas for the new release. All right, David. If you got just a couple minutes to hang out, we'll finish this up. I appreciate your time a lot. As always, I just love hearing the stories and everything that you got going behind the Seimbra Spirits brand. I enjoy, and if there was a Dom Perignon of tequila, I would definitely put yours in that class. So
Oh my goodness. Well,
yes,
and this is I said the same thing about what you do. You know, the our future of our category depends on educators and people that is enthusiast and responsible in all the meaning of the word to take serious the category of agave spirits. So I would say thank you for what you do, and a lot of the people. I don't know how many people was in this. I don't have any information, but I appreciate. I know a lot of people who they do um, everything possible to preserve this beautiful and emblematic uh, symbol of Mexico. You know, so
absolutely. Well, I hope we have you back on at some date.
I can
Uh,
wait. I can wait to go and have dinner at this beautiful restaurant that I went. That it brings tears to my eyes when I taste the food. It's at the Kansas City Hotel. It is restaurant. What's the name? It's on the. It's a couple, I believe. They're Asian, and it's this an amazing dining experience that night. It's it's right at the in the Kansas City Hotel, and it's a, a, a remarkable food program. Literally, I really, it was a couple dishes. They brought tears to my eyes when I was tasting
I
the
have a
food.
few restaurants here in the area that I or in the Kansas City area that I do enjoy. Uh,
Yeah, and more.
I'm
What
not
was the
quite
name
sure
of
where
that?
you went. I'm sure if I know JP, he probably took you somewhere pretty amazing.
Yeah, that it was amazing, and the people in that I met. You know, when I met you and all the events that we have, I was blown away by the level of engagement with agave spirits
Yes.
in Texas. You know, it was incredible. It was one of my highlight trips in last year. Uh, I was truly impressed with the level of knowledge on the people in Kansas, in both sides of the that fine line between the two states, in Missouri and Kansas. Uh, Great questions, great engagement. Um, I feel that the future tradition will long live in places like Kansas. So, and I know you are part of that reason
I'm a big advocator to keep the good stuff rolling in. And luckily, I got a couple of good distributors here that I can rely on and present some amazing tequilas to, and they're very receptive and react very nicely to it. I mean, they're truly supporting the tequila market here in Kansas City. I don't mean to go off onto another deal, but just I mean, I look at all the posts and some of the people complaining about the states, and I thought Kansas, Missouri was like at the bottom of the barrel. Well, now I'm not so sad about it anymore because there is a lot of states lacking, and I go on and look at their state board approved lists, and I feel sad for some of these states. It's just it's like when you first went to Philadelphia. I mean, you wouldn't drink anything there. There's still states out there like that, which is sad. So
yeah,
I'm very thankful that we have people like JP and um,
they're amazing. Him and his team, they are like
yes,
super engaged, and I
yes,
know that trickles down into decisions made by bureaucracy and the state. So
yes.
yeah, have distributors with the level of commitment to their portfolios. It's also very important, you know. And there are some distributors who now which are so important in the category and how the category is developed, that they stop bringing spirits that don't deserve to be on the market and deserve to be taking space, shelf space. And
Right.
so yeah, no, he does an incredible job, and his team they were such a passionate advocates for our portfolio. I feel overwhelming, and I feel very happy to be under their watch as an importer and representing these brands. I know our brands are in good hands there. So
yeah. All right.
All right.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. David, if you give me 2 seconds after we're done here.
Of course.
I appreciate everybody for joining us tonight. Please keep those questions coming in. I will post the video here just shortly after, and maybe we can get David to jump on and respond to some of the comments after. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.